Namaskar. In the last class, we have discussed about standard costing, the meaning of standard costing, and a definition of standard costing, which is given by Chartered Institute of Management Accountant, London. Then we have discussed about various tips relating to standard costings, then objective of standard costing, advantages and disadvantages of standard costing. So today we want to discuss about preliminaries for establishing a system of standard costing in a firm. There are various factors taken into consideration before introducing standard costing system in a firm. First, we have to establish cost center. Say, according to J. Beatty, a cost center is a department or part of a department or item of equipment or a person or a group of person in respect of which costs are accumulated and one where control can be accessed. That is why it is very much essential to establish various cost centers in a firm. Then, secondly, we have to classify the various costs. There may be various types of materials relating to a particular product, various types of, say, labor cost, overheads may be relating to a particular product. So, we have to classify the cost under suitable accounting heads by assigning the code number for respective items. This results in convenience in dealing with the cost, and it also ensures the secrecy. You can maintain the secrecy if you say put some code for some respective item or say cost. Then thirdly, we have to determine the duration. This refers the period for which the standard are used. It may be for long period, for more than say 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or it may be for short periods, say for 1 year or 6 months, like that. Then after that, we have to determine the capacity. It is very much essential to determine the capacity to fix the standard relating to overheads. There may be fixed overheads and there may be variable overheads. So it is essential to fix the capacity of the equipments that under this capacity the overhead cost will be this much. Then we have to classify the standards. There are different types of standards. Basically, we can classify standards into 4 heads: current standard, basic standard, normal standard, and historical standard. Now, what is current standard? So, current standard is the standard which is established for the use over a short period of time, and it is related to the current condition. That is why it is known as current standard. Normally, the period for current standard is 1 year. It is presumed that the conditions of production will remain unchanged for that period and the performance should be attained. Again, the current standard may be 2 types: ideal standard and expected standard. Now, ideal standard is that standard which represents a high level of efficiency. It is a theoretical standard. which cannot be attained in practical. It can be attained under the most favorable or ideal condition. Therefore, this standard has some limitations. It shows very high degree of variances, and it also affects the morale of the workers. Then expected standard. This standard is based on the expected condition. Generally, these types of standards is known as budgeted standard. It is relating to the budgeted period. It is fixed for future course of action. The target can be achieved if the expected condition is fulfilled. Otherwise, this standard will not work properly. Then the next standard is known as basic standard. This standard is established to use for a long period, say for more than 1 year, and not adjusted to the present condition. Under this system, a base year is taken into account to make a proper comparison like index number. Then normal standard. This is an average standard and considered to be the good enough for future period of time, preferably to cover a trade circle, say for 5 years or more. This standard does not require any frequent adjustment and advantageous for long-term planning and decision making. Then historical standard. There is another standard which is known as historical standard. This is also average standard, but this standard is based on the past cost, historical cost. It is not very widely used, but it may be helpful for the firm at the initial stage of the standard costing. Then after classifying various standards, next step, organizing committee for standard costing. The success of standard costing system will depends upon the accuracy in the setting of standards. This is based on the coordination of various departments. So one department cannot fix a standard. The cost accountant himself cannot fix a standard. So you need corporations of different departments. Therefore, standard setting committee is to be organized, which includes production manager, sales manager, personnel manager, chief engineer, and a cost accountant. The committee may revise the standard on the basis of the changes in the circumstances. It is not like that if you fix one standard, say that will be continue for the long period. Say there may be some requirements to change the standard in the future period also. Then this committee will decide about the changes of the standard. Then setting up an establishment of standard. Generally, there are three main heads of standard cost. The first one is direct material cost standard. It is known as direct material standard cost standard. Under direct material cost standard, we have two standards also relating to material, which is known as material quantity standard and material price standard. We'll discuss it later. Then another standard established, which is relating to the direct labor, which is known as direct labor cost standard. Again, we have two labor cost standard. First one is known as standard labor time, and second one is known as standard labor rate. Then finally, we have to fix standard for overage. Again, in the case of overage cost standard, we have variable overage standard and fixed overage standard. The standard for direct material, direct labor and overhead expenses should be fixed in such a way may be used as a tool for cost control. Thank you.